Are you going to hurt me when we leave here today? Just kidding.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. We're friends now.
Yeah.
No,
Well, let's not go that far.
Welcome back to the Goodfellow Podcast. Today we are joined by Chris, a retired police sergeant whose father was a New York City bar owner who allegedly had mafia connections. We're also joined by Mr. Joe Barone, co-host of the Mafia Roundtable podcast with Dominic Cicali, and a former mafia associate turned FBI informant. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you again.
Absolutely. Today we want to bring you guys on in order to have a really interesting open discussion from sort of both sides of the law. I wanted to start by asking you, Chris, what was your first experience with the mafia?
Well, prior to my dad owning a bar in New York City, he owned a sizable electrical company that at one time was Local 3, and when eventually went to Local 360 with the Teamsters. My father had a lot of large work that was going on, and a lot of the contracts that he achieved was through a little backdoor payments, get inside on bids.
Absolutely. Joe, did you ever, were you ever on the opposite side of any of that? Was that sort
I
of...
knew a lot of guys in the Teamsters union. Obviously, the Teamsters was a lot of connections we had in that, and also Local 3, because that's like the biggest
What was the
outfit.
Local 3?
It's the electricians union. They're like the biggest ones in New York City.
Okay,
I knew a few people that actually was around there. You know what I mean?
I got you.
So I was going to just ask you, if you don't mind me asking, Chris, who was your father's connections with? Was he with the Gambino family or Genovese family?
Honestly, I was such a young kid at that time. I really didn't have the insight on who he was connected with at that point. Mm-hmm. But he was told on several contracts you had to be a union guy. You had to employ union guys, and
Mm-hmm.
we had to bring guys in from the hall. And that's how it all usually went about.
Well, now, what about the bar? Where was the bar located at?
Bar was in Hell's Kitchen in Manhattan.
Oh, okay. So are you Irish then, or?
No, I'm a little Italian and Polish.
Oh, Italian and Polish, okay. Yeah, Hell's Kitchens, because it's a lot of, that's a lot of Irish in certain sections over there. Yeah,
100%, yeah, 100%.
Exactly. Now, what was the name of the, well, if you don't want to tell me the name of the bar.
Yeah, I'd rather keep that out of it.
No problem. So your father actually had, I guess because a lot of people come by the bar with liquor and stuff like that, I guess probably that's how he got a little acclimated into that, or was it because of the unions?
No, it was because of the bar.
It was
because of the bar.
Okay.
It was because of the bar, and certain people came in at certain times, and that's how it all came about.
Like what, with the liquor and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, how I got involved with the bar industry was that my father passed away at a young age of a heart attack.
Okay.
And here I'm a 24-year-old kid with a bar in Manhattan, and couldn't even, didn't know much about anything
The
with
bar
life.
was yours after?
Correct.
Oh,
correct,
okay.
Correct.
Okay. So I was just going to say, because don't forget, too, in Hell's Kitchen, there was a lot of Irish guys there, too, that were... they used to have like a group down there called the Westies back in the days. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I've heard of them. They were still somewhat involved.
They were pretty tough guys. So there's still somebody not to shake a stick. As a matter of fact, they used to have the Jacob Javits Center. You know that place.
100%. We've done work down there.
I used to actually work in the Jacob Javits Center once we took it from the Westies.
Yeah.
See, because it's kind of a funny story, but the Westies, they were a small group of guys, not as big as obviously the wise guys, but we wound up taking it from them, and then it became our place. And in the 80s, I was making like $24 an hour working in the carpenters union, and I was paying dues. I don't know where it was going, but I was paying dues, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I always wanted to ask you another question too, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
You guys don't mind if I ask him a couple of questions?
Yeah, ask away.
Many as you want.
Pretty much an open book.
Now, what made you become a cop?
Again, the lifestyle of when I was kind of inherited that bar is the lifestyle of 18 hours a day, and just the stuff that was going on within the bar just wasn't a healthy environment for me as a young father.
How long did you do that for? 18 hours a day?
Close to 3 years. It was a close to 3-year experience.
Probably felt like 10, though.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of drinking. A lot of drinking going on, drinking with the customers, going out after with the customers, and getting involved on a lot of different things. Driving home, driving drunk, doing all those things that it's not a healthy environment for a young kid, and it's not where I wanted to lead my life.
So what did you do? Did you sell the bar, or how did you make that transition into being a cop?
Yes, actually, I became a police officer in New Jersey. What was going on is, in the state of New Jersey, you cannot own a bar in New Jersey and be a police officer. In New York City, owning a bar, you can be a police officer in New Jersey. There was nothing illegal about that. So for the first year of my career, I owned a bar, and then eventually sold it.
Wow, that's not bad. Then, so actually, a lot of stuff you saw coming through there. I mean, with all the liquor and all the other shit you got. What else was going on there?
Well, where do you want me to
Sounds
start?
like it was a lot. Well, you start. You tell me. I'm
All right,
looking.
we could start number one, liquor. you
Right.
know. Not knowing who the names and the families were,
Okay.
they would come in the bar pretty weekly and say, "How much liquor do you want?" And my response was, "I'm good. I don't need any liquor." No, you didn't hear what we said. "How much liquor do you want?" I said, "No, I'm really good." "No, how much are you going to buy today?" So every week, I would actually buy liquor at a 50%.
I was going to say, I'm
Yeah.
sure you got to buy a discount. So
Yeah.
what was the difference? You're not losing any money.
But it had
You're going to drink it up.
Correct. So it had to be cases at a time. It wasn't like
Yeah.
buying one case for 50% off.
No.
We bought several cases. Was it good profitable for the business? Yes, it was. But again, ATF being involved with that, and they watch everything coming through the door and all the liquor tax and all that. So the state and the feds lose money on that.
Well, yeah, but do they really? But they don't really like investigate you or anything like that, did they?
Oh, they can. They according to the liquor laws in New York City, the ABC laws, they would watch the amount of cases coming through the door. They're supposed to be reported by and all the cases of liquor coming out of the liquor distributors got to be reported to the state. So if I'm buying 100 cases of vodka a month, they know how much tax they should be getting.
Wow.
So now you're bringing another 50 cases in, not being reported. It's tax dollars that they're not getting.
Talk about trying to. This is about the government. Look how they want to get in everybody's pocket. They're with everybody. They don't care about tax. Everything's taxable. Everything is justified because it's them. But when it's you to make a few money, but they forget how many hours you got to spend in that bar and deal with all the bullshit that got to go with it. The fights, the broads in there, all that other shit that was going on. I'm sure.
Yeah, the drug dealing.
Sure, that's
everything.
what I'm trying to say. So that I'm sure there was a lot of joy. Now, let me ask you a question. You don't have to say any names or anything. Was there a lot of cops you had who were taking care of too, that looked out for you there a little bit, or no?
Correct. So
Okay.
there was a lot of people watching our backs because they have a lot of interest.
Oh, sure.
One being the cops. The cops on the beat, 9th Avenue, walking back and forth. They're looking for their piece. It could have been in a lot of different ways. It could have been cash on holidays. It could have been bottles of liquor, different types of gifts, and they would pretty much ask for it, and you had to provide it. Because they would keep the riffraff out, so to speak. And then get certain cops come in. We had attractive bartenders there or barmaids. And they would take them to the back room, a few of them, and do whatever. So what's going on? What do I do? I can't fight the bureaucrats at that point.
You're not supposed to. Now, what about the wise guys? They must have been looking out for you too.
Yes, I mean, let's start. We started with the liquor. We can go with the guy running numbers, right? They had a number runner, a bookmaker. So he would come in every day. They would hit all the bars in the local avenue. He's got his clientele. They come in.
Well, let me ask you a question. Now, you talk about a numbers guy. You mean he didn't pay for a spot in that place? Usually, sometimes a number runner will give you a few dollars on the side for making you use his bar. Like
you would like to say so.
Yeah.
Maybe being young in the business, in the bar business, and maybe they took advantage of that. But I mean, the benefit that I became was I had customers coming in.
Oh, that's all. Okay,
He kept the customers coming in gambling. They're spending money at the bar.
But that
Right.
okay. That just answered my question. And he didn't have to pay. He bought the business.
Right.
That's all
Yeah.
right.
He's
That's-
bringing business in.
That's the
and-
same thing. Let me just get a sip of the coffee.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you guys for fixing the coffee machine because we definitely needed a little more of this.
Absolutely. That was our top priority as soon as the espresso
Thank you.
machine
Yeah,
went
exactly. So now you said you became a cop. So now were you? Oh, one last thing. Were you living in Jersey while you had the bar in New York?
Correct. I
Okay.
lived in South Jersey at the time. Yeah.
South Jersey.
South
Okay.
Jersey.
Damn. So that was a little bit of a ride, right?
What
Yeah.
year was this?
This was in It started in '93 and ran to almost 1997.
Okay.
That's not bad. That was a good run.
Yeah, it was a good run. Again, owning the bar, cash all the time in my pocket. I never wanted for a dollar. There was always money to be had. But there was a lot of stuff that going along with it. It was, again, it was rough.
Nobody taught you how to put the bar under a corporation or anything like that, to hide taxes and stuff like that.
No, and we had a corporation. I mean, you paid your quarter taxes and your payroll taxes and stuff like that. I had an accountant, but
Because anytime you do that, that's how you show a loss. But
Right.
listen, that's okay. You was 24 years old. What did you know, really?
Yeah, yeah.
100%, you know what I mean? Now, you said you were a sergeant, so you started off obviously as a regular
yeah,
police officer, obviously,
yeah,
right?
yep. I retired as a police sergeant. Did a little. Again, I did a little everything in my career. It went from patrol on the beach to being patrol at a campus police, going on into to patrol in another department, mounted division, and special enforcement units, a lot of big units.
A lot of corruption in the police department, you think, or no? I mean, you don't have to say names. I'm just asking you. You don't, you might have heard something.
In New Jersey, is there probably, but again, over my career, I've seen some things where guys hitting the evidence lockers and stuff like that and getting caught up.
Wow.
As far as payouts and stuff like that, I've never seen it. But that's just more of the.
Did you ever have to turn a blind eye to anything, or just pretend you didn't see nothing and kept walking on your beat, or something like that?
My blind eye was pretty much in the bar. I turned a blind eye to a lot of the New York City guys coming in, and
Right.
that was the blind eye that I saw. But prior to my career in New Jersey, guys are pretty much straightforward.
So I think you had mentioned something about too that you worked in all different aspects in law enforcement. Like, what was the other ones you did?
Yeah, we did ATV patrol. I've done mounted patrol. I did, obviously, police, patrol cars.
Right.
And special enforcement units, which encompasses narcotics and
Also, like drugs and all of that shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And ultimately, retiring as a sergeant. I was a 9/11 responder prior to being a sergeant. Got cancer from 9/11.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you must be familiar with the Tunnel for Towers guy, Frank.
Yeah.
Okay. He does good work, doesn't he?
100%.
Yeah, I like
helping out everybody. I mean,
100% goes to everything.
Yeah.
This guy is straight on. He's the only guy that I think I like. And he had a lot of good people on there who I like too. Mark Wahlberg and
Yep.
the other guy from Yellowstone, and he had a lot of really decent people.
Baseball
on there.
players,
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Yep. I can't say enough about the guy.
Did you Did you beat the cancer?
I was stage 4 at my worst stage. I was stage 4 in liver involvement. Currently in what they call clinical remission.
Okay.
It's a lymphoma cancer, so it never really goes away.
Right, you got to
keeps it at bay. It's more treatable than curable.
Right.
But it hasn't been active in probably going on almost 11 years now.
Oh shit, that's good.
Yeah. No, I'm out of track. Let me backtrack. It hasn't been active in the last 8 years. I mean,
Did they give you any money from that big fund that they had? Because I know there was a lawsuit. They were trying to fund it.
The whole Zedroga Act. I got a little money out of that. No, they did. They did good.
Because they were scumbags. What they did with that. All these people went sick, and I don't know if everybody out there knows about it. Because sometimes the regular news don't want to report that they had a big fund for everybody who worked in 9/11, and there was a lot of people who died. I don't know how many people got cancer from being around there with all the asbestos and all this stuff.
And more people died today than the day of.
That's right.
At this point, and there's people dying every day of the illnesses. It could have been all sorts of cancers and lung diseases, and you name it, all sorts of rare, crazy diseases.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it was reported because would you believe that the government was one of the worst attacks, I think, or the only attack that was ever on New York to such a magnitude. And everybody that could come out of the woodwork, not even from New York, everybody from all around the country and all around the United States came over to help. And this is what the government does, and this is a lot about how the government really tries to screw people over. I mean, thank God Chris got some money and he saw some benefit from it. But there's a lot of people who didn't. There's a lot of people who died and never saw it. Their families never saw anything. And this is another reason why I really praise the Tunnel for Towers. But at the same time, I want your viewers to understand that it sounds good. They come up with money right away. and then they stick it to you. And I don't know if you guys watch the news, but look at all the money we're giving to Ukraine. For what reason, I don't know. I think there's a lot behind the scenes there that we don't know, between chemical weapons and all this other stuff that they got going on with Ukraine that nobody wanted to know about. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but I want everybody to know how the government really just does what they want, and they put a facade over what they're doing for American people like Chris and all of us.
Well, the other big issue too, you may be aware of this, you may not be aware of this, but I'm involved in it now. There's a lawsuit against the Saudi government.
Okay.
And our government
Tell the viewers.
the Saudi government. We are as the 9/11 responders and families of the survivors and stuff like that are suing the Saudi government, but our government will not release all the pages, and so we can go forward with the lawsuit. There's been a lot of discovery, and it's just been postponed. And they just don't want to, settle this lawsuit to help the families out. We know the Saudi government was involved one way or another with the hijackers and stuff like that. But our government is just, I don't know, maybe they're just trying to wash it away.
You want to know something, and not to interrupt you, Chris? I think
Absolutely.
It's because the Saudi government right now, they're still begging them for oil to run this country, when Donald Trump didn't even need them, and we had the oil right here in this country. And I'm not trying to say I'm one side or the other or anything like that. I'm just a common sense guy who could just look around. I'm sure you're the same way too. You can see the writing on the wall. If you can't, I'm sorry, but that's your problem. As far as I can see, is we had our own oil refineries here. We had reserves. We had everything in here when Donald Trump was in office. And the bottom line is the country ran better. That's why the gas where we're living at this particular time was $1.65 a gallon. I think average price around the country was $1.99. Okay, then it went up to over $5 in some places. So that to me means something went wrong, and you can, if you use your own imagination or whatever you might want to do. But the Saudi government, and listen, this is how other countries try to manipulate the United States by money. It's all about money. As a matter of fact, speaking about money, I wanted to ask you before. Now, you worked in law enforcement, and I'm just curious. Was there any talks about gangsters, or like if you ever come across a mafia member, or was there like, this guy's with this family, and watch out for these guys are killers or anything? Did they ever talk like that in the police department?
I've never seen it. I worked in a small department, out in Western Jersey, and it just.
Okay.
We never had that. You may have a little gambling ring here or there that may have been controlled by the mafia.
Right.
But it was never confirmed,
Okay.
Yeah, it was all, if it was hush hush, but.
Yeah. Because listen, I mean, no offense to you, but I mean, a lot of law enforcement, like I said, a lot of the guys they used to be on our payroll too. Right. We had number stores back in my town, and if there was something going to happen, we'd get the phone call, and we knew what to do, and stuff like that. So that's why I was wondering. Like I said, I don't want you to mention names. I'm sure you got contacts still there or whatever, but I figured they would talk about it or whatever. You know what I mean?
No.
I just was curious,
Never came across my desk, put it that way.
All right. Listen, that's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. But at least I'm glad now. What other stuff had happened to you or your dad, and that your father never told you any stories about anybody he met or knew?
I mean, he had some friends that actually did time for gun charges and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
They were connected, but again, I don't know the extent of it because I was so young. Dad he sheltered me from a lot of stuff, but I wasn't so sheltered when that bar was thrown at me, and here I am. I'm caught in the middle of a lot of stuff that's going on in the bar.
Well, sure.
Yeah. So it was a learning experience for a 24, 25-year-old kid. Still a kid, just trying to
that must have been
trying to figure out life. So it was a tough. It was tough. It really was.
Sure. Well, so don't forget too. There's a lot of wise guys, and it all depends on that area where you were from, who was who, what was what. I mean, they got one guy doing this, one guy doing another. I don't know if it was the same family you were around, or it could have been maybe a couple of guys that get together, because it's not unlike, and a lot of people might not realize that if there's a good money making business, it doesn't always have to be with one particular family.
Right.
Sometimes it's to generate money, like in the garment district.
Right.
In the garment district, there's not one family that runs it. You got the Gambinos, you got the Lucchese, you got the Genovese in there.
Right.
So you got a couple of different families in there, but everybody's making money, so it keeps everybody happy. And there's, instead of having a war or blood in the street, or trying to take over something from somebody else, the money gets all divided like that. You understand?
Well, I was going to ask you that question.
Oh, you were?
Yeah, I was definitely going to ask you that question because, again, being in the bar, right? I got all these different entities going on with,
Right.
was with the underworld, like, were they connected? Were they not connected? Like with each other.
Yeah.
So again, we talked about the number runner, and then we talked about the liquor industry,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
we're buying liquors, we're saving money, we helping that family out. And they were telling me maybe the trucks were getting hijacked, which they were. They were hijacking trucks, and the rumor I was hearing that they were hijacking the trucks coming out of JFK. Mm-hmm. Again, so
Yeah, listen, anybody hijack, wherever the truck is, wherever it's going to be, they're going to make the money, they're going to grab it no
Right.
matter what. My father used to do that too. He said, just tell everybody, when I was a kid, he said, tell everybody my truck driver. And he used to actually have the jumpsuit and everything like that. And he was a truck driver. I just didn't realize I had a kid that's 7 years old that he was hijacking the trucks. Yeah, I mean, he was driving, but I didn't know he was hijacking them. He just said, I'm a truck driver. So that's what I told everybody. My father's a truck driver. Or he was in construction, or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, because like I said, some of the wise guys didn't have access to poker machines or whatever like that, or prostitutes. Some people did it, some people didn't. But if there was a good bar there and they all made money, that's how to keep the peace.
that's another good. It's another good point to bring up. It was the gambling machines.
Right.
We had Joker poker machines
There
inside
you
the
go.
bar, and we had the little bowling game. We had some pinball machines and stuff like that.
How
But
big was the bar? It's pretty big, huh?
Yeah, it was about 12. I would say about 900 square feet.
Oh, that's
somewhere
good.
around
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. Had a back room and all of that kind of stuff.
No back room. It was a little bit of a kitchen.
Okay.
Joker poker was right out in the open.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I see
that was a big money grab for us. Again,
Yeah.
it was a 50-50 split.
Listen, there ain't nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that. See,
Is
so-
that typical, Joe? Was a 50-50 split typical, or did the mob want to take more usually?
Nah, because they don't want to rock the boat because it's just it's a good steady cash flow. So what they want to do is they like I said, I think on previous podcasts, they don't want to shake anybody down no more or say you're doing this or else. Like he said, so I asked him if he had to pay anybody. So, but them bringing in business like that. So in other words, he could have been making $1,000 a week, but because now he's with them, he could be making $4,000
Right.
a week. And so then you whack it up. So he's still making money no matter how you look at it, and
Right.
they're using his place, and it keeps the peace.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Violence is good when you need it, and you do need it from time to time because sometimes there are people who just they either get afraid to get involved or whatever the case may be. But you want to kind of keep the peace. Look, everybody wants to make a buck, and nobody
they
wants
do.
to not make a dollar. You know what I'm saying? So if they're offering you this kind of money. They could be they could have been making $10,000 a week, depending on how many people they brought there and all of this kind of shit between the
Right.
machines and whatever else they were doing. So if they split that 50-50, that's $5,000. That's cash money.
What is a poker machine? Like in the casinos?
It's like
poker
yeah,
machine?
exactly. Yep. I mean,
The audio poker, video poker.
Yep.
Video poker, right?
And they can adjust. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt
no,
you,
go
but
ahead, I want you to.
they can actually adjust the payouts on it.
That's right.
And they can make it win more or pay more. So if we had a slow week with the machine, they'll up the payouts, and we'll get less profit. But when they knew it was paying out a lot, then they'll readjust it.
Yes.
To take more money, and that's what happened. So a good week can be anywhere from 500, with all the machines, to a couple thousand. It wasn't like a typical big money grab, but it was pretty. It was extra found money.
Yeah, sure.
And help you pay the rent.
They didn't have those old cigarette machines, did they, back then?
We had a cigarette machine
had the-
at one time, and that there too.
I remember those things when you used to put the money in and go like this, and the cigarette would come out.
Now they have vape machines.
Again,
Oh
Vape-
yeah.
Vape pod machines or something.
Oh, really? Yeah,
It's
yeah.
cigarette machines.
But yeah. I mean, with that family, they would bring in. We had the bowling machine, we had the Joker poker, a couple video game pinball machines. They would change them out to see how the activity on of different machines coming in. But again, the cigarette machine they were bringing in, and again, their connections probably kept a lot of the law enforcement out of it. There would be places getting raided all the time. We never got raided.
Well, then there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
So
so
it was
someone
worth
was-
it then.
Yeah, someone was taking care of somebody to keep the law enforcement out. Like,
And there's your question, answer to your question too. 50-50, even if they had to still pay a little bit, everybody's still making money and everybody's still keeping quiet. And that's
Right,
it.
right, right.
It's all it takes is a little bit of money. Listen, if you're making say $25,000 a year, maybe back then, I don't know, just throwing a number out there, and now all of a sudden you're making $35,000 a year, an extra $10,000 or $15,000, whatever it may be, who's going to say anything? I mean, you don't report it because it's under the table, and at least you start getting a better life.
Right.
It's what that's why I go back to the government. They want to. They want to get every little dime from you. They want to know everything you're doing. You can't deposit more than $600 in the bank cash now, because they want to know where'd you get that money, why you're putting it all in there. It's like that's the reason why the Bitcoin, and they're trying to maybe get that going, because now they can do everything digitally, and now,
without a bank.
Yes, the only
Right.
reason why they're not doing it 100% yet, the digitally, is because all the politicians got to finagle where they're going to hide their money, where they're going to take all their cash money from different banks, and how they're going to put into Bitcoin. Like that, so it's like that guy that did that thing for Joe Biden. He was billions of dollars or whatever it was, and he donated all this money to his campaign or
Sam
whatever.
Bankman-Fried.
Say that's him. Yep.
Yeah.
Nobody questioned him there. Even a lot of politicians are using
He's doing
Bitcoin.
30 years, right?
I think so. I'm not sure exactly. I was trying to follow it, but it
They
was
gave him
hard.
what he deserved, for sure. Cost a lot of people millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So, but that's why I said let me ask him a couple of questions. About the law enforcement. And you've been retired for how long now?
8 years.
Oh, it is 8 years.
8 years. Yeah.
Okay, so you got a pretty decent pension.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
you're a sergeant.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
so that's not bad then. Look, you had a lot of experiences, and you said your father died young.
He died at 50 with a heart attack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's young. My father 54 too. So.
Yeah, so I didn't get again, my father and my mother were divorced at age 12, so I was age 12. They, divorced.
Yeah.
I was still young, so, again, didn't get the chance to hang with my father a lot. So it took the later years getting into the electrical company and hanging out with my father, running the city with him, dropping payouts for here and there. I never questioned, here's an envelope, drop this off to this person, that person. I didn't even know what was going on until later in life I was able to figure a lot of stuff out,
Did you ever meet any of these guys firsthand?
Yeah. Again, I met some people. I don't know who they were or what they did. It's just go drop an envelope here, drop an envelope over there. Who knew? And able again later in life and being in law enforcement, my investigative experiences are like, holy shit, that was maybe it could have been something there.
Right.
Yeah, it's just yeah.
And don't forget all those unions. Everybody's connected in those kind of unions. Look, the union really won't be able to run if they didn't have any money ties.
Yeah.
They just can't really do it. And, but it's okay because those wise guys get those contracts. These people, it works. The system
They're
works.
helping everybody. They're helping themselves, but everybody wins.
Exactly.
That seems to be a common theme with
Well, see, that's
how
something.
Mafia operates.
That's right. That's something the government really could never understand. Everybody's eating, but they just want to get greedy. The government's the one who's greedy. It's not the
Right.
wise guys so much. Don't get me wrong. The wise guys, the greed, did ruin the mafia. It was. And that's another long story. But the bottom line is at least everybody was eating. Things ran quietly. But then you get some stupid guy says, "Oh, we got to do this," and trying to make a name for himself, and this is how things started going bad.
You talk a little about corruption and talk about government corruption and stuff like that. So owning the bar, right? Mm-hmm. You have constant sanitation inspections, and you have constant Board of Health inspections, and they would come in weekly, and they're writing you violations up to what. So there's one way out of it. You don't want these? They're got their hands out.
Yep.
They got their hands out. We can make this go away. You know how that goes. You leave
Yep.
it, and.
The government learned from the mafia, or did
Of
the
course.
mafia learn from the government? I wonder what came first, the chicken or the egg?
So this is
The government, listen, since the beginning of this, all the United States, there's always been that corruption. Look, how did the Rockefellers get so rich?
Right.
How do all these people get so rich? The Rockefellers, and there's the Van Buren or whatever it is. There's all these real mega rich people, and they always had their hands behind the presidencies and all of this stuff like that too. The president is only a figurehead, realistically. That's another reason why, and if you guys, I hope you don't mind me saying, that's another reason why they hated Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. They hated Donald Trump because he couldn't be bought, and when somebody can't be bought in or talked to in the lifestyle I led with the mafia, then you got to go. Okay, then that's when the violence is more predominant. Well, you might not settle for this, you might settle for that, and then if that doesn't work, there's something else. There's always a way out, and the whole thing is that's when you really need to use violence or something like that could happen. And I'm sure you probably come across bodies or whatever. Who knows? You know what I mean?
You see this cup?
Yeah.
This cup was this little plastic paper cup was very famous in the payoff world. Again, with the New York sanitation, the Board of Health, it was always, give me a cup of coffee, you know what I want. So it was a cup of coffee on the bar with a pile of cash in
With
it.
cash in it, right?
Cash in it, they grab the cup, they walk out. So
Yeah, you see how that's how they do. So the inspectors come in once a week. Now you don't know inspector got to come in there once a week, but everybody's using it as a cash cow. That's why it's always good when you make more money. So in one way, the mafia really helped them out because bringing all that business up. I mean, they only taken half. He still was making money even after he had to pay other people too. And those wise guys knew that these other people were going to come out of the woodwork. Let's face it, they always know everything. They always know.
And the minute you didn't do it, you'd walk away with $3,000 to $4,000 or $5,000 worth of fines for 1 week.
That's right.
They just find any little thing. Someone just threw a cigarette butt on the sidewalk. And you're in New York City. You got cigarette butts everywhere. People, commuters going back, dropping. If you don't out there sweeping every 5 minutes, they just write you $500 per cigarette butt and just keep going down the road. So yeah, it was a bad problem. It was hard to actually operate a business in New York City with just that alone, with the bureaucrats.
I tell you, it's a sad state of affairs. I mean, especially with what's going on in New York now with all the riots and the this and that. I mean, I miss New York in a lot of ways, but I miss the old New York, the good New York, not this bullshit that's going up there now.
Oh, it's just terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
I wouldn't even. I remember walking 20 years ago, or better, maybe 25 years ago, and I was walking on Fifth Avenue, and I didn't even hear anybody speaking English. I heard them speaking German, Russian, because back in the 80s or 90s, I think it was the 90s, our dollar was so weak. People from Europe were coming in here buying up buildings like crazy. They were getting a 45% discount because our dollar was only worth like 45%.
At the time?
I don't remember exactly. I know our dollar, the value of the dollar dropped. I think our dollar was worth 45 cents.
Oh, wow.
And so when somebody comes in from Europe with all their money, whatever they do or don't do or whatever they have, they're getting a 45% discount just walking in here. Well, who wouldn't want to buy up half of Manhattan if you could? Just like Japan bought up Hawaii. I mean,
they get grants from our government. Sends grants over to, like, especially the Korean population in northern Bergen County. They sent grants out to them to come into New Jersey or wherever to open up businesses. And tax free.
This is what I'm trying to say. All these people coming in here and everything. If like I remember they say about the illegal immigrants coming in here, they said no, they're going to help build the country. Well, then there's 11 million or more than that probably here now by now. Well, why can't all those millions of people build up where they came from? If they're such good buildings, right? I mean, give me a break. Right. But that's the way it is.
It's again, I will go back to the illegals because I got a first hand, because a couple of guys that worked for me in my personal business over the last couple of years, again, a couple of good, really hardworking Mexicans, and he came over 20 years ago, and when the way they were coming over, the coyotes, the only way to get into the United States was through coyotes, so the coyotes would tell them, you want to go? It's $1,500 at that point.
Yeah.
$1,500, take a backpack, a 5-day trek into the United States. Do not let go of that backpack. It stays on your back. When you get to the other side, give us the backpack.
Wow.
The coyotes are sniffing coke for 5 days. They don't sleep. You have to keep up, or they just leave you out there. So,
wow.
And what's in that backpack? It's kilos of cocaine. They're loaded, And that's how they got into the United States, and it's still happening every single day with everybody.
And this is, and then they wonder where all the drugs, all the shit's coming in from, and everything like that. I remember when I was in prison on my second bid. We were in the box, and there was a guy from the Mexican Mafia, and he was funny as shit. The guy, so he was going to be getting released. I think I don't know how many more months he had left or whatever. And he said they're going to deport him back to Mexico. I said, oh, wow, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to come back again. I said, but how many times have you done? He said, this is going to be my third time. Now, the third time, what happens with that is they're going to put him in jail for like 7 years. I said, but you're going to come back to jail. He says, better than being in Mexico. He said, this is what he said, this guy. I was like, holy shit, can't be. How bad could it be?
That's crazy.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not there. I mean, the most Mexican place I've been was Cancun. You know what I mean? But it was like, how bad could it be? And this kid was so funny. I mean, he didn't like the food. He used to bitch and moan. He wanted to get the Ensure drink and the Ensure, and then once a week we got a hamburger. And so the CEOs would walk by to give him a tray of hamburgers. Oh no, we don't got to give him the food. He says he got no teeth in his mouth. He can't eat. He wants to sure. He goes, no, I'm okay. Akuri. You know, he was like that. He was funny. He said, yo, he said, can you do the song for me? And I said, all right, no problem. I go. He goes, yeah, Yoey, that's my song. Yeah, he was crazy, this dude, but he was really a nice guy. But you know,
What is so bad about it there? That,
I don't know.
Some of them, they come here for a good life. And they really do.
Some of them do. Yeah.
But what's happening now? They are emptying our jails. They're jails out in these countries, and they're all rapists and murderers and whatever you name it. The worst people, the worst.
They did like Castro did
Yeah.
in the '80s when they brought all the Cubans over here. Same shit. I mean, listen. The bottom line is I don't know why anybody doesn't want to put the wall up and whatever, and then just. Look, there's been people that's been waiting years and years. They waited, spent all this money, and they finally got in. What a smack in the face where you let everybody else in who hopped the wall. You're giving them money, computers, phone, medical, a place to live, better than places that I'm living in. Okay? And they're giving them everything.
And the cartels are running it all.
Yeah,
the cartels are making billions of dollars on this mess.
I hate to sound political, and I'm not political. I really don't like to watch the news, and I really get sick of it. But I mean, like I said before, it's just common sense. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, terrible. It's just terrible.
You got any other questions for Chris? Or
Yeah, so
I know I took a lot of time up on
Yeah,
this.
no, I mean, I got some more stuff at the bar. I can, definitely hit up with it. Again, if you want me to go through it.
Yeah.
We hit the liquor. We hit the gambling and the joker poker and the loan. Not the loan sharks, but I was going to get to that in a minute. But the number runner, and they're running out of a pay. At that time, it was all nothing but pay phones. Was no cell phones. That pay phone was the number runner's phone.
Wow.
So he used that phone. That was his phone booth in the bar. But again, you're getting down to the loan sharks, right?
Yeah.
So it's another family. I don't know if they're all connected one way. I mean, two old guys coming in, sitting at the end of the bar. Again, they come in on Thursday and Friday when people are getting paid. And they pay up the loan sharks. Loan sharks are spending money at the bar, buying people drinks. These guys are coming in collecting $10,000, $20,000 a week.
Yeah.
Because what did we have in the bar? We had postal workers, we had police workers, we had probation guys, because it was all encompassing the area. 8 o'clock in the morning, these guys are getting off their shifts. They're coming in. It was blue collar bar, so you're hitting the construction workers, everybody, and these guys are making a fortune. They come in. So it was another family. I don't get. They were all different families. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
It doesn't. Like I said, it doesn't always have to be the same family. But listen, the bottom line is that it was a good place. It was a go-to place. You were protected. Everybody. It's always generating about money.
Yeah.
So, like we said before, everybody's happy. And I still to this day, even though I worked with the FBI, I don't agree with everything they do. As I've said plenty of times before on this podcast, my podcast, and everybody else's, but that I've been on. But that's one thing they don't understand. Things run a certain way. Just let it go. Leave it alone. People are trying to make money. All you're doing is charging us more taxes and this and that. And in this country, I think up till 1913 or whatever, we didn't even pay tax. How did they have roads and bridges and all this stuff then when nobody had to pay tax back then? How did the country run then? It's all about greed. And that's where they got. Like, you want to say you live in America, the free and all of this. Yeah, for the most part, you are free to a certain degree. But I mean, I don't know if you guys ever saw that movie with Xander Cage. It was with Vin Diesel, and he says, if you think you're free in America, stand on the table in a restaurant and pee, and you're not free, and all of this stuff. But the bottom line is better than most countries, but it's not really. It's not what what it says it is. You know what I mean?
It's fallen from what it was meant to be.
Oh, sure. It's like they said that in the Gladiator. Remember the Gladiator when he said Rome was a dream one time, but now it's different.
Right.
Because everything will get, and that's why they call it the melting pot. Everything will get sooner or later watered down.
Right.
Look, back in the days we had a lot of respect. People, like even in the mafia, people used to respect the mafia. And the mafia didn't have to really kill when they didn't want to have to kill, because there was an order to things. And that's the way that things were. It was an order. It was nice. It just went the way it was. This happens here, this happens here. And everybody makes their life around it. It was not the worst end. I mean, but everything gets watered down. It's almost like when you had a girl back in the days when the women were more pure, they were good, they didn't go around sleeping with every Tom, Dick, and Harry or whatever the case may be. And years ago, you were embarrassed if you were smoking a cigarette or if like got caught with a kid, or a woman would never think about showing and flashing herself like that. There was, of course, a couple of hooas out there. I mean, that there's always that, but there was respect. Women had respect for themselves. People had respect for themselves. Everybody used to dress nicer back then. I mean, now you go out and it's a whole different world. There's no respect. You hold the door for somebody, they don't even say thank you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's yeah. I mean, sometimes, and then if you don't hold the door, somebody goes, "Well, you can't hold the door," and they bitch and moan. I mean,
no one says hello to you, passing past.
Yeah.
Hi, hey, how you doing? Nothing. You don't get any of that.
the drugs. Everybody wants to be against drugs in this country, but meanwhile, the pharmaceutical companies are giving more drugs out to everybody in the world, and they're giving out to selling it, and they're billionaires, trillionaires, and on legal drugs. And they spend all this money. What is it? Billions of dollars every year getting high, but yet because somebody's selling a thing of weed, it's no good. Come on, give me a break. It's just a joke.
It is 100%.
That's why I wanted to ask you about that. Your 9/11 experience too. If you did get paid or they did help you.
I got paid out prior to retirement. I went out on a disability with the cancer because.
Well, you had cancer.
Because again, with New Jersey, the way things operate with the pension system, so it's like, for instance, a guy gets. He's on a motor vehicle stop, he gets hits by a car and messes up his leg. At that point, you go back to work, and you have 5 years to retire on that injury.
Oh, okay.
So if you go 6 years and that injury's acting up, you're not going to get a full disability pension. So
you get out with the 5.
Correct, you get out within the 5. So
Yeah.
again, when 9/11 happened, I got cancer. So the first 5 years, there was no treatment. It was like what they call watch and wait. So at 5 years, I had to make a decision. If I don't leave and I go 6 years and I need treatments and I'm really messed up and I'm going to die or whatever,
screw yourself.
I wouldn't get a full pension. So ironically, I went out on almost to the 5th year to the day. I wasn't feeling well, and that's when I found I had stage 4 cancer. So God was like looking at it. So I did the right thing. And it was also a crapshoot with the state pension board, because at that point, nobody was retiring on 9/11 illnesses and cancers and stuff like that. So I wasn't guaranteed to get a full pension with the pension board. Wow. So I went through all the testing and the reports for like over a year. And finally they said, yeah, we'll grant you a full pension, disability pension. And then at that point, being I retired because of the injury, the 9/11 stepped in and gave me another payout.
Wow.
Yeah. So they did take care of you. It wasn't a lot of money. There was guys in the beginning that went to 9/11 that weren't even sick. Could have got a payout for like $1 million if you never sued again. And guys were getting $1 million.
Oh, wow.
Right?
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. There was one law firm that in New York City that grabbed everybody they can. They sued. You take that payout now. You will not be able to get it later if you get sick from something. So some guys did it and some guys didn't. I opted not to because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And
wow. I'm glad you told him it was that stuff too, and then stuff, and me too, because I didn't know all of that stuff.
Correct.
I mean, I've heard the other bad stuff. I mean, I know there's always a couple of sides to the story, but I mean, at least I was happy to just see some people who just really went and out of their way. I mean, I knew a few people. Matter of fact, my friend died in the Trade Center. My friend Mike McHugh, he died. He was a bartender back in New Rochelle, where I was from. So he died there as well.
From the time of 9/11 to the time that you were formally diagnosed, how many years was that?
It was almost 10 years to the day.
Wow.
So whatever it was that they were breathing in, it did those guys in quick.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure it does. Because it's bad. That's poison.
What was it, asbestos? I mean, what were they breathing in?
Yeah, you got everything.
Carcinogen that caused all this.
You got, diesel fuels, you got metals, you got plastic, you got PCBs, you got asbestos, you got sheetrock, you name it.
Just chemicals and just horrible.
I was pulling stuff out of all my orifices for weeks after the fact. That stuff, everything together as a combination of everything was very, very, very toxic.
Wow.
Oh, man.
So I never thought I would get sick. I'm going 10 years to the day. All of a sudden, I got a lump in my neck here, and I'm like, what is that? It took 3 months to figure out it was lymphoma.
Right.
And it wasn't for them actually taking out a lymph node out of my leg, to find out that it was cancer and what stage and how aggressive it was, I would have never known. I may have had it years before, just never knew it.
Stage 4 is, I mean, that's the second to last stage, right? I mean,
Yeah, I think
so,
stage
yeah.
5 is the last one, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty deep in.
lymphoma's a little bit different when it comes to stages. It's not, if you have like stage 4 breast cancer, more than likely, you could be on your way out. But
Right.
stage 4 lymphoma, it's a little bit different. They stage it because it hit 2 organs, and lymphoma is very treatable, not curable. So
Okay.
That must have come a long way then.
Yeah,
Since I remember.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it was. Again, it was trying on our family. It was trying on my wife, and as my caregiver, and trying on the kids. They were all young. It was just it was a hard life for a while, and still is, because it constantly it's a mind fuck.
Yep.
And every day I
You
think,
don't know when it-
am I
yeah.
going to wake up dead today? I get the flu. Am I dying? I got COVID. Am I dying? Like again, it was. Well, I got a little cold. My nose starts sniffling. Am I dying?
How many
So-
years were you a cop at that point? 9/11 happened.
At that point, like 6 years.
So you were still like a corporal or a
No, I was just a regular patrolman.
Okay.
Just a guy that was we got involved. What happened? I mean, ultimately, why we went there was because prior to 9/11, where I worked, there was a lot of mine shafts and mountains and stuff like that. So we created what they call the high angle rescue team and confined space rescue team. That if someone fell off a mountain, we can go down and get them, or fall into a shaft, we can go down and get them. And a year
wow.
later, 9/11 happens. They called in nothing but police officers that had that training to go in there, and there wasn't a lot. So when we got to 9/11, again, you're there to help anybody, but you read about in the papers at that point, the cops and the firemen, they were fighting, literally fist fights, who was going to control the scene. And they didn't,
Wow.
again, outsiders coming in that weren't in New York City, they gave us a lot of problems getting onto the site. We're here to help. We're not here to hurt anybody. We want to make sure we can get people out safe
Jeez.
and stuff like that. Yeah, it was
What a
it was
terrible event. What a
Yeah.
crazy.
yeah, it was a
thing,
terrible time, and I still view it every day in my head, constantly going around.
Sure, because
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
from a distance. Imagine being right there
Yeah.
with all the smoke and the people screaming and running, and all those people who were jumping out of the building
Yeah.
because they were catching on fire. The heat was so bad and all of this shit.
How
Yeah.
far away could you see it from?
Oh, I was in the Bronx and I seen the smoke. I watched it from TV, and then people were running up the FDR. They were running on the West Side
yeah.
High. They were everybody. I mean, it was
Well, when 2 planes hit, you expect a third, and a fourth, and a fifth to come.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on. People were freaking out. They didn't know where to go, what to do.
That's right. My aunt
That's
called me
terrifying.
up. Yeah, exactly. My aunt called me up. I got on the phone. I said, "What's going?" She's turning on news. I turned on news, and I saw the building going up in flames. And then as I'm watching the TV, the second plane come in and hit. I went, "Oh
Yeah.
man!" I was like floored. I couldn't believe it, because that takes a lot of. I mean, listen, the guy who did it, the Osama bin Laden guy,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be, it was pretty ingenious, to be honest with you. I mean, see, this is the reason why I say people don't realize it takes 1 second can change your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a blink of an eye.
Here
And
today, gone tomorrow. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, and to engineer that kind of a hit like that, you
It had never been done before.
That's right.
Cockpit doors open all the
And
time, smoking on the planes.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It also changed the way that people, changed the way America. It created the TSA.
Yep.
It changed the way that we operate in terms of safety and homeland security and all that.
But you know
And
something.
it totally shifted everybody's kind of view on
That's
the world.
exactly right, and I'm kind of glad you said that, because we should have been ready. We should have been always prepared, the best way we knew how.
Yeah.
See, like there's a lot of things that I've done in the street that I watched on a movie, and it came true. My driving skills, to be simple. I did shit that they did on the movie driving, and I said, "Holy shit, it really worked!" Because I couldn't believe it. And I'll get into that story in another time. I mean, I was with one of my girlfriends. This was back before I went and took my first pinch, and I'm driving on the opposite lane, and I'm zigging, and the cars are coming this way, and she said, "I can't." But she was shocked. Yeah, I was shocked too in a way, but I did it but I wasn't afraid, and I just did it, and I said, "Holy I couldn't believe it worked." I was, whoa. And you see, now this is the kind of thing where those planes coming in there reminds me of the same thing. Nobody thought about this, but now you got these kids that were getting killed in schools, or these guys going into this.
Yeah.
But you mean to tell me your children are at school and you don't have some kind of team to make sure there's not a stranger coming in there. I used to be a custodian in a junior high school in the Bronx on Baychester Avenue. I worked at John Philip Sousa. And they had that school pretty locked down. And that was back then. That you talk about the 80s, okay? And, anybody come there, they want to know who's who, what's what. And now that all this stuff is getting worse, they're worried. They're complaining about spending money for security and everything.
Yeah.
Spending money. You're giving billions of dollars to all these other countries that don't give a shit about us, but yet our own children you don't want to protect? Oh my God, that should be your first priority.
Yeah,
Innocent children in the school getting gunned down, lost their lives. Come on, man. See, this is what I mean. We should be more focused here instead of over there and over here.
Yeah, over there. It's just terrible.
I mean, this is that's why I said in that 9/11. I mean, don't get me wrong, and those poor heroes that nobody really ever talks about. Those people who attacked those dudes on the plane by the Pentagon when they were going to go into the Pentagon.
Right.
And one guy, I think there was one recording. He was talking to his wife, and he says, we might not make it or whatever." Well, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching. But finally, when I said what the courage in these people, they just jumped up and took care of it. They had box cutters, these guys. Oh, all right, no pay. The guys I hung around with, they wouldn't care if you had a big knife or even a gun. They had nothing to lose. They would have still charged and took you. These guys, you know what I mean? And I give a lot of credit to those people and to their families who raised them to have the courage to do that.
1993 should have been a wake-up call.
It should have been.
I was there. I was right around the corner when 1993 happened. Mm-hmm. It was the first bombing of the World Trade Center with the van underneath the parking deck. I was working as an electrician right around the corner.
Wow.
So I kind of witnessed that. This is before I became a police officer.
How bad was that, the explosion?
Yeah, I think it took out like 3 or 4 floors of the parking deck, and some people died. It wasn't a lot, but that should have been a wake-up call. They were trying to get us at that point.
Yep.
They should have known. Let's tighten down our security.
Yeah.
Whose fault is it? Maybe that's in the report that they won't release with our federal government with the Saudis. I don't know.
Why go after the World Trade Center specifically? I wonder.
Well, the World Trade Center it's like the whole headquarters that generates money. See, the way to hurt
World Trade.
Yes, World Trade. Thank you. If you don't, the World Trade Center it was all around the world. Everybody from around the world. Everything. It's almost like
it's a symbol. It's a big symbol.
And that's why China's trying to attack our dollar. Russia's doing the same thing. And everybody tries to outweigh because that's how you get somebody. My father told me a long time ago, you want to hurt somebody, hurt him in the pocket. Because let me tell you something, you could be really rich and you lose all that money. You'd be surprised how your life changes, because especially when you're used to doing it and you're supposed to generating money. So when you hurt America's financial thing, you really crush them. And look at us now. We're really in a depression. Nobody wants to say it, but we're really hurting. Our whole economy is going down. I mean, look, I remember a few years ago I used to pay for an 18 pack of eggs 89 cents. Now I'm paying $7, $6, $5. Eggs. Come on. So this is how they get you. This is how they hurt everybody. And we're this close, and you probably can verify it, and you too, we're this close to a major fall. How many more people can we keep generating all this money? They're not even living per paycheck and paycheck. They can't even pay their credit cards because they have to put food bills on credit cards just to survive. Never mind if they're paying rent or even maybe lucky enough to pay a mortgage. It's crazy.
Absolutely. So, Chris and Joe, we're coming up on the 1 hour mark.
Okay.
Did you guys have any other questions for each other? Anything else before we wrap up that you wanted to know?
I'm pretty good.
Are you going to hurt me when we leave here today? Just kidding.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. We're friends now.
Well, let's not go that far. No, I'm only kidding.
A beautiful sight. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you like today's episode, go ahead and leave a comment, subscribe. We really appreciate it. And tune in next week for our next episode. What was that, Joe? You
I
had
just
something
wanted to say, yeah, and look forward. I look forward to also having a couple of more. We're going to be doing a lot more on my podcast with Dominic Cicali at Mafia Roundtable.
Absolutely.
So look out for that. We have a lot of great things coming up, and people are going to be pretty surprised and pretty happy.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and take care.
Thanks.